I bought this rug a little over a year ago off Etsy. I needed a rug for my kitchen that was a bit more than 5 by 10 feet, and I didn't want to spend a lot of money on this. It was a surprisingly tall order. I was kind of shocked how hard it was to find a rug because a lot of the runner style rugs on the market that are vintage, I only buy vintage, are very loud. They have busy prints, there's a lot of colors going on, and that's not really my taste. I landed on this because I do really like the muted green color. It kind of speaks to the cool tones and colors in our home. And the price was right. It was $300. It was not $1,200. Don't let that fool you. But as soon as I got it in the room, it was just kind of like a one note that just kind of covered the whole floor. And it didn't add a lot of interest. It didn't add a lot of character. And since then, I've been trying to come up with ways to punch it up. Is there something I can do to make it more interesting? I saw this rug a few months ago. So it was after I had bought my rug for my kitchen. I wasn't looking for a rug, but I fell in love. Consider me wooed. I normally don't like rugs. I prefer to showcase a hardwood floor, but that was not an option in our kitchen because of the age of the floor and the large gaps in the floorboard. So this was the rug of all rugs that I would have in my home. It's from the 1800s. It has a Tibetan design on it, and it was also very expensive. So this 3x5 rug sold for $1,200. So that immediately knocked it out of the running. I knew that even if I was lucky enough to come across a rug like this, it would just be well beyond my price range and probably not the right size I wanted. But I thought that I could create the same motif on my rug because what really excited me is that the background colors of both rugs are almost identical. What I really like about this motif is it has an organic feel to it. So each of the shapes is slightly different. Some are longer than others, wider than others. Some have flowers, some do not. And it just creates a lot of visual interest and looks very handmade. A lot of the rugs I was seeing online were so cookie cutter and so symmetrical that they just didn't feel as interesting to me. The other thing I really like about this rug is while it is super interesting and dynamic, there's a lot of contrast between the two colors. It's not busy. It's not loud. It can be kind of quietly beautiful because it only relies on two colors. So I wanted to create this motif on my rug, and I've been noodling for months on how to do so. First, I was thinking about dyeing this pattern onto my rug. I pretty quickly scrapped that. Dye is notoriously difficult to work with. It bleeds, it doesn't stay in the lines, and this is a very detailed motif that I want to create. So then I thought about pyrography. So pyrography is a technique typically used on wood where you are burning a design into the wood. It's been done for hundreds of years. I am very lucky to own this incredible pyrography table that I think is one of my top 3 owned items. But anyway, the technique is typically done on wood, sometimes on leather, and most recently, a lot of crafters have been using it to dye into felt wool hats. So I thought, why not try to do that on my wool rug? I wanted to go over the products that I used for this project. So first, vacuum deep clean the rug, wanted to make sure it was free of debris. And the second was actually a pastel that I used to draw out the design. This is what I had on hand. I didn't really want to buy anything new for this, but I'd probably recommend chalk because chalk is a bit more forgiving if you draw something and then decide you don't like it and you want to start over. Pastel will come out, but it is much harder. But the reason I do like pastel more is because it actually leaves behind a pigment when you burn over it. So it creates kind of richer tones and colors than the chalk would or if I were to freehand. Next product is the most important, which is my Woodburner, and I will show you what it looks like. But this was a kind of like mid-tier option. I'm a beginner. I don't need to spend a lot of money on this, but I needed something that had a controllable burn temperature. So this was recommended. Unfortunately, it's a discontinued product. So if you're interested, I would run out and buy it quickly before you can't find it anywhere. So this is what it looks like. You plug it in and there is a gauge for the temperature. So with wool, it has a very high burn temperature. So that's why you need one with a gauge. It needs to go on one of the higher settings. If you used a burner that was just kind of like one that heat it up and you use it more like a soldering iron, I don't think it would actually work on the wool. I don't think it would get hot enough. So then it also came with 4 points. These are things that you put in the stylus. There are shading ones if you're interested in that. And then the one that I really used was just kind of like a regular point to create the fine details. Initially, I was thinking about using the shaders as well to actually fill in the design I create. But I'm worried that that will impact the integrity of the rug. That will actually be taking away some of the top layer of the rug. And while it's okay for those fine details, I think if I were to try to actually do this on a larger scale, it would make the rug fall apart. So I'm probably not going to use those. So here is the rug in all its glory. You will see both the burnt in pattern and some of the drawings that I did originally before I burnt them in. And these two are actually not gonna get burnt in because I wanna rethink the design that I have here. So there's 2 reasons why I didn't map out the entirety of the rug before I started burning. One, this is a new technique for me, and I've never actually seen this done on a rug before, so I wasn't sure if it was gonna work. This is like nubbier texture than like a felted wool hat, so I wasn't sure if it was gonna get that fine detail work that I'm looking for. Fortunately did, so that's really exciting. The second reason though is, as you can see with this one, the pattern that I created is already starting to fade. It's already starting to get blurry. The lines are kind of like bleeding together. And so not only is that harder for me from a guide perspective to kind of like draw the design work over, but it also doesn't create the pigment and the tone that I'm looking for. I love this one because it has this like dark, rich tone to it. As you go along, I kind of started freehanding. I was like, I'm loosey-goosey, I know what I'm doing. And that creates like a lighter brown color that I actually don't like as much. So I want the pigment and I need the guide. I do wish I could have mapped it all out beforehand, and this is where a more detail-oriented person than I would have like done a mock-up that they then create onto this. That is not my style. Wish it was. But I think what I'm gonna do is have this pattern run this direction and then kind of flip things around, and in the center have like 2 bigger ones of these that have a lot more of the like floral detail, those like funky flowers. And then for what I'm calling the 3rd panel on the other end, have it mirror this, but like a little bit different. So the same idea of kind of smaller scale, elongated, but compact, kind of print-like structure, but just a little different because this is all freeform. So I just wanted to show you the color differences. So this is freeform. You'll see it's a much lighter brown color. And then some of those areas have the pigmentation from the pastel. So I don't mind the variation, but I do like the darker color best. So that's part 1. In part 2, I hope to show you the finished product and share some kind of things I learned along the way, stuff I might have done differently. This is a long project, so part 2 might be a few weeks away from now, but I'm really excited about that. I think we have moved away from these more artisanal, handcrafted, long-form projects in the culture of immediacy that we live in, and as a result, the objects, the items we surround ourselves with are just less interesting. They're less one of a kind, and I really like to surround myself by things that have a story to tell and are just like beautiful works of art, and I consider this one of those. So I just can't wait to see the finished result. I know it's going to be spectacular, even if it's not exactly what I wanted. Anyway, in the meantime, keep creating.